Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Standing by in the wings is Mr. John Cornett, ready to play some tunes. How you doing, John?
I'm great, Paul. How about you, brother?
I'm doing pretty well. Next door here is Mr. Casper Leach. How you doing, Casper?
Happy Friday. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
All right. And we have our regular hemp news segment. We'll have some video clips and taking your phone calls shortly. In fact, if you want to get a jump, you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. But in the interim, we will bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Right. Our first story has to do with federal prohibition. At least 67 people are serving life sentences in prison right now for marijuana here in the United States. While more than 20 states have now legalized cannabis for one purpose or another, medical or adult use, and with $22 billion in legal sales expected by 2020, cannabis is becoming another consumer product. But these new laws don't help people with past convictions, including some with sentences harsher than those for murder and rape. About 40,000 inmates of state and federal prisons have a conviction involving marijuana, according to research co-authored by UCLA professor Mark Kleinman. About half of those are for marijuana offenses alone, and all are victims of the drug war hysteria that swept America in the 1980s and 90s. Between 1996 and 2014, federal judges sentenced 54 people to life without parole for marijuana offenses, according to the clemency report. The ACLU found about a dozen more cases at the state level, and at least a dozen more exist beyond that, according to advocacy groups. One of these men who was busted for selling just 32 grams of marijuana. Another involved was the sale of 130 grams, the equivalent of less than a carton of cigarettes. Others were caught in cases involving between 2 and 50 pounds of cannabis. All got life in prison, and that's where they remain today. Hopefully, they'll let our people go. Also on the federal level, the new Federal Drug Enforcement Administration head, the administrator, Chuck Rosenberg, in a TV interview last week called marijuana dangerous and added, quote, "If we come up with a medical use for it, that would be wonderful, but we haven't," end quote. I could introduce him to about 250,000 patients who disagree with that. This woefully misinformed DEA administrator also said that federal drug agents in the field won't be discouraged from working on big marijuana cases, despite directives from the Obama administration to not waste resources pursuing state-compliant providers. Rosenberg said, quote, "I've been very clear to my agents in charge. If you have a big marijuana case, if that's in your jurisdiction and is one of your biggest problems, then bring it on," end quote. That, of course, leaves the door open for cannabis-hating federal prosecutors to continue their war on marijuana, the same as it ever was. When the administrator was asked about the continued inclusion of cannabis in Schedule 1, the federal government's harshest and most dangerous category of narcotics, Rosenberg replied, quote, "Marijuana is dangerous. It's not good for you. I wouldn't want my children smoking it, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone do it. So I frankly don't want to see a reason to remove it from Schedule 1. I'm not willing to say that it's good for you or that it ought to be legalized. I think it's bad for you and it should remain illegal," end quote. He failed, of course, to adequately explain why it's so dangerous that it ought to be continued being considered the legal equivalent of heroin and more dangerous, according to the federal government, than both methamphetamine and cocaine, both of which the feds consider less dangerous Schedule II substances, end quote. Down south in California, their long experiment in unfettered capitalism in the medical marijuana industry looks to be coming to an end. The California legislature has reached an agreement to create a regulatory framework for medicinal cannabis. Lawmakers said late on Thursday they've reached a deal to regulate and license medical marijuana. The regulations for California's billion-dollar medicinal cannabis industry will be contained in 3 bills that have gotten the approval of both chambers of the legislature and the office of Governor Jerry Brown, according to Assemblyman Rob Bonta of Oakland, one of the authors. Bonta said his measure, along with the others, will be released on Friday, today, and would require state and local licenses for medical marijuana dispensaries. It would create a Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulation to oversee licensing and regulatory affairs involving the California Department of Food and Agriculture and the Department of Public Health. The new bureau would be part of the Department of Consumer Affairs and would be headed by a director confirmed by the state Senate. Local cities and counties will be able to place taxes for cultivation and retail sales on the ballot in addition to sales taxes on marijuana, and could designate fees to recoup regulation costs, according to California State Senator Mike McGuire, another author. McGuire said his bill will track and trace all medicinal cannabis and includes a provision designating marijuana an agricultural product. Under California Senate Bill 643, municipalities would also be eligible for grants from a production and a mitigation fund, with that money going to law enforcement and cleanup. The agreement calls for mandatory lab testing, including for edible products, concentrates, and oils for patient safety. With a planned measure to legalize recreational marijuana trying for next year's ballot, Governor Brown and lawmakers have been working on a compromise to regulate the state's 2-decade-old medical marijuana industry. The apparent deal comes after complaints that lawmakers were scrambling over who was going to take credit. Out of Mesa, Arizona, patients with legal access to medical marijuana reduced their consumption of conventional pharmaceuticals, according to a demographic review of patient characteristics published online in the Journal of Psychoactive Drugs. Investigators affiliated with the Medical Marijuana Research Institute in Mesa, Arizona, surveyed responses from 367 state-qualified patients recruited from 4 Arizona medical cannabis dispensaries. The respondents were more likely to be male, in their mid-40s, and daily consumers of cannabis. The respondents most often reported using cannabis therapeutically to treat symptoms of chronic pain, muscle spasms, nausea, anxiety, arthritis, depression, headaches, insomnia, and stress. The patients typically said that cannabis provided a lot of relief, or almost complete relief, of their symptoms, and that its efficacy was greater than that of more conventional medications. Patients also reported reducing their use of pharmaceuticals. Over 70% of the respondents reported using other medications a little less frequently, or much less frequently, for 24 of the 42 conditions specified. Over 90% of those who reported consuming cannabis to mitigate symptoms of nausea, headache, muscle spasms, fibromyalgia, bowel distress, and chronic pain acknowledged using pharmaceuticals less frequently once they had initiated cannabis therapy. Previously published survey data of medical cannabis patients similarly report subjects' willingness to substitute cannabis for prescription drugs, particularly opioids. A study published in July by the National Bureau of Economic Research, a nonpartisan think tank, reported, quote, states permitting medical marijuana dispensaries experience a relative decrease in both opioid addictions and opioid overdose deaths compared to states that do not, end quote. Data published in 2014 in the Journal of the American Medical Association, or JAMA, Internal Medicine similarly reported, quote, states with medical cannabis laws had a 24.8% lower mean annual opioid overdose mortality rate compared with states without medical cannabis laws, end quote. This new study, Medical Cannabis in Arizona, Patient Characteristics, Perceptions, and Impressions of Medical Cannabis Legalization, appears in this month's edition of the Journal of Psychoactive Drugs. The last story tonight has to do with senior citizens. There's a new factor playing a big role when seniors choose retirement locales these days: marijuana laws. With 23 states and the District of Columbia having legalized medical marijuana and 4 states plus D.C. legalizing the herb for adult use, it's starting to have a real impact on such choices. Since retirees don't have to check a box off on a form saying why they chose a particular location for their sunset years, figuring out how many people are retiring to legal states is challenging. But there's anecdotal evidence that people with health conditions such as that medical marijuana could help treat are relocating to states with legalized marijuana, according to Michael Stahl, professor of public policy at the University of California at Los Angeles, who studies retiree migration trends. Stoll cites data from United Van Lines, which shows the top U.S. moving destination last year was Oregon, where marijuana had been expected to be legalized for years, and we finally passed a ballot initiative last November. 2/3 of moves involved Oregon were inbound, a 5% jump over the previous year as the state continues to pull away from the pack, according to United Van Lines. The Mountain West, including Colorado, which legalized medical marijuana in 2000 and adult use in 2012, boasted the highest percentage of people moving there to retire, according to United Van Lines. 1/3 of movers topped that region said they were going there specifically to retire. A lot of the things marijuana is best at are conditions which become more of an issue as you get older: chronic pain, inflammation, insomnia, loss of appetite. All those things are widespread among seniors. In Colorado, since legalization, many dispensaries have seen the largest portion of sales going to baby boomers and people of retirement age. Carl Kike, the founder of a collective garden, Seattle Medical Marijuana Association, said, quote, "About half the people coming into our shop are seniors," end quote. And that's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. How are you doing over there, John?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Paul. Kind of
Good.
drained. Been digging and filling holes, but thank God I'm here. I think, but for the grace of cannabis and a higher power, which I choose to call God, I get to be here tonight and perform.
I saw you were happy that you were able to get by a day without the use of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, on Facebook, yes, sir. And today I've had 2. You know, I can take 4 10-milligram oxycodone per day, but I'm generally, my prescriptions run out after 2 months rather than just a month, because I've been pulling it way down, and then I have days where I go without to test, because I think it's real important to see if whether or not I can dose up enough of the cannabis oil to replace those opioids, and I found that I actually can. We are many, we are strong. Can so many be so wrong? Giving in to too many lies. Doesn't anybody really care why? Can it be that we are right? Can we be peaceful through this fight? All we really want to see is humanity set free. Just one big family, once united, we are free. Now's the time to make a stand, do the best that each one can. Once awakened, we will see the potential of infinity, and abundance will be the norm when we are finally through the storm. Can it be that we are right? Can we be peaceful through this fight? All we really want to see is humanity set free. We're just one big family. Once united, we are free. Now's the time to make a stand, do the best that each one can. Just one big family, once united, we are free. Now's the time to make a stand, do the best that each one can.
All right. Mr. John Cornett. It's a great song. Hey, Casper, how you doing, man?
Fine. Happy Friday.
Good to see you. Happy Friday to you, and happy Friday to the viewers out there. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at that number there on your screen, 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
I have a question, Paul.
Go ahead.
Has the hemp stock dates been set? If so, when are they?
The hemp stock dates are, as it says there on the screen, Saturday and Sunday, October 17th and 18th, right down at the same place the Blues Festival is, Tom McCall Waterfront Park. Governor Tom McCall Waterfront Park.
And the mayor's going to show up?
The mayor had said that he would if it fit in his schedule, but unfortunately we got word back a couple days ago that those dates don't fit in his schedule, so he won't be there, unfortunately.
He won't?
No.
Dang. I had a whole ounce just with his name on it.
Okay. What can you do? So
Is Bloomin' Trouser going to show up?
we don't have him on the schedule yet. I can say we've got Andrea Herman for the National Hemp Industry Association.
She rocks.
She's pretty darn good. We're going to have a grow panel with Jorge Cervantes and Tom Alexander and a couple
Nice.
other folks.
Now, didn't they do a magazine at one time called Sensimilia Tips or something like that?
Tom Alexander did,
All right.
and I don't remember whether Jorge was published in that, but
And Jorge's got a long litany of grow videos and books,
Books.
right? All that.
he's got a new university out there, THC University.
Cool.
So
My kind of school, you can smoke in between classes
that's right. That's
or
right.
vaporize.
So stay tuned or go to hempstock.org. That's HEMPSTALK.org to find out more.
Or hemp.org, right?
Hemp.org is the portal to all our sites. So if you have a question for us, you can call that number on your screen, and we have our first caller. Excuse me. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Actually, the neighborhood, I called last week talking about that Jacques Horror plant that I had that went hermaphrodite. Well, the whole thing was growing
No, we need a
pollen,
little
but
more
I had
sound
to
in the
cut it out.
studio.
But the other problem I have is I got all these other plants, and there's no trichromes on them.
And are the hairs brown?
Yes, I got white and brown hairs all over. I got no trichromes, and I'm starting to freak out. Maybe these, I don't know. Maybe they're spraying something in the area or something.
There's something out there that a friend of mine, a longtime grower, said is really bad in Southern Oregon, and we've seen it here in Portland. Some people call it cannabis Ebola, and it are these microscopic mites that you can't possibly see with your eye. They're broad mites and russet mites. The only way you can really see them is to use a microscope or take a macro lens on a camera and blow it up. But it sounds to me like that's what you've got. There's been a lot of that going around. There are a couple of organic friendly products out there that work on it. One of them is Botana Guard, which is a fungus that will eat these little microscopic mites. Another one is
Botaniguard.
Clean
I'm going
Green.
For that, man.
What?
I'm going for Botaniguard. I got these beautiful plants. There's buds all over with no trichromes whatsoever.
It sounds to me like you've got these microscopic mites that aren't spider mites. They're like just tiny, about the size of half of a spider mite leg. You couldn't possibly see them with your eyes. And they've been all over. Like I said, it's been a scourge that's come up from California this year. I had never seen them before myself until this year, but my friend Jorge Cervantes recommended looking at some of these plants that I've seen out there that have been infected with these things. And in fact, there are these microscopic mites, but Botanigard has worked very well, and you can get another one, this clean green solution, at a number of the grow stores out there.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck with that. Yeah, you've got to get these funguses and treat it right away. Your harvest will come in late, and you won't have as much as you would have if it wasn't for these microscopic mites. But it's just a new scourge that's just moved into this town this year, as far as I know.
Now, the guy, is it from the Justice Department, who said that there is no medical value?
It was the administrator, the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Good luck.
The guy who's in charge of the federal drug police has said that marijuana is dangerous.
All right, so then these mites...
It's just as dangerous as heroin, according to... Well, he said maybe it's a little less dangerous, but it belongs in Schedule 1. Now, Schedule 2 has methamphetamine and cocaine. He says marijuana is more dangerous than that.
Gotcha. All right, so then these mites that you're talking about are probably about twice the size of his brain, right?
Well, you know, we could infer that perhaps.
All right, so that's what you're looking for, something twice the size of the head of the Justice Department's brain.
Yeah. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello.
Hi. I'm calling in because now that marijuana has become legal in Oregon,
Yes.
I'm wondering, when are we going to be able to purchase it? Is it going to be October 1st?
October 1st. You can go into any of the dispensaries from October 1st till January 2nd, I believe. You'll be able to buy untaxed cannabis at the medical marijuana dispensaries. You'll only be able to buy 7 grams or a quarter ounce. You'll only be able to buy the flowers. You won't be able to buy the edibles or the tinctures or the extracts or concentrates. All of those will still just be sold to medical patients for the time being. But you will be able to purchase cannabis come October 1st.
And will you have to show identification or something to
You have to show identification that you're over the age of 21, and they will record your date of birth. For medical patients, when they sell marijuana to a medical patient, they have to record the patient's name and their date of birth, and those patients can purchase up to 1.5 pounds. But if you're not a patient, and those patients can buy the edibles and the concentrates and the oils and tinctures. But adults who don't have a medical permit, at least for the time being, will be limited to just a quarter ounce.
All right, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
can't wait till you can walk into a Fred Meyer's or a Safeway and find different blends of marijuana alongside the snack aisle, which is where you should put it, right?
There was some
Marijuana
talk.
and snacks.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think I'd like that.
No?
That wouldn't be good for me, because one of the main problems I have is the appetite stimulation.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know? But you and I probably should stay away from those snacks, but especially me. But again, if you have a question or call about cannabis or hemp, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We'll take.
If the owner of Voodoo Donuts ever gets into the dispensary business, I'm buying stock in that company, and I bet we can retire.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
We have another call. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hi, Paul. Casper.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. This is Kim.
Hey, how are you doing, Kip?
Happy
I'm
Friday.
doing well. You?
Very well. It's good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you. Hey, I just thought I'd call and see how things were going with your ventures in Paraguay.
It's Uruguay, and it's going very well. I'm working with some people from South America. I haven't been to Paraguay, but I am in Uruguay. And, you know, right now it's late winter there. So once we get our harvest up and packaged away, I might just head down there.
Well, that sounds just great. I hope you're the best on that and whatever's happening out in Eastern Oregon for you. And listen, Paul, I was wondering about those mites you were talking about. Could you give me those signs and symptoms again?
Say that again?
Those little microscopic mites you were talking about?
The buds don't really start to form, and you don't have trichromes. And the stigma, the hairs on your buds that are normally white or sometimes red or pink or purple, those don't really form, or if they do form, they're brown and look like they're dead.
Well,
and so if your plant isn't really making buds, and you've got what they do, these micromites, just like mosquitoes, they inject a poison, and that poison is a systemic that spreads around in the plant, and that's what causes the most damage.
What's the name of the plant?
What?
What's the name of the plant of the bug?
There are broad mites are one of them, broad mites, and another one are russet mites. And then both of them are microscopic. You really need a 60 power microscope to be able to see them at all. And you need a more powerful microscope than that to see them very well. But they're nasty.
Would Azotrol or Actinovate take care of them?
No, Actinovate won't, unfortunately. There are a few specific products out there. Like I said, Botanic Guard. Botanic Guard will take care of it. And another one that you can pick up in some of the local grocery stores called Clean Green. That's something else that'll take care of it. Both of those are funguses that will eat the micromites. You know, Actinovate will eat mold and mildew, but it won't eat these bugs. And so you have to get something else that will eat the bugs. And these are funguses that the Actinovate will actually eat this stuff, you know, because it's a mold.
I gotcha.
And so at the same time, there's another thing called trichoderma enzymes, and they're like my mycorrhizal enzymes that are good for the roots and to protect the roots and eat the bad bacteria that might attack the roots of your plant.
I see. Well, that was some great advice, and have a great time in Uruguay.
When I get over there, I hope to. I hope to. I think I'll be. There's an event that I spoke at.
Fluorescing right now.
Huh?
I said, I'm going to say that I don't have those microscopic mites because I'm well into fluorescing. What a great summer for the first year for it to be legal, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And it was those mites are especially bad in southern Oregon. Like I said, our old friend John Sajo, a longtime activist here, he calls them cannabis Ebola.
Okay, I'll have to mention that to my Northern California friends, like 60 miles from the border.
Yeah.
He's had that problem.
There's some scientists at a company in Northern California called Cutting Edge Solutions that have been working on biological controls of these things as well.
Good. I'll look that one up too. Well, thank you, Paul. Casper,
You're welcome.
have a good night and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye now.
You have a good night too. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Hey, you know what? I voted for the legalize the medical marijuana.
We're having some sound problems here. What did you say?
I voted for the legal and both parties of recreational too.
Uh-huh.
I'm really concerned when I start hearing about medical candy stuff be put on the shelves there at Myers. I think we're taking this way to the extreme. Or safety hazard of our children.
Uh-huh.
You know, and the fellow next to you goes, I can't wait till, there's a form of realism, there's a form of insanity. Oh, and I respect what you've done, but I think we're taking them just a little too far.
You know,
that's just my opinion.
I appreciate that. You know, one of the things about putting it in places where only those over the age of 21 can purchase it is it really takes it out of the hands of children. You know, children have really been controlling the market in a lot of cases. The kids were selling it in the high school. One of the things that came out, there's a study just this past week that was released in Washington State that says now with the regulated sale of marijuana, kids are having a harder time finding marijuana, and they say marijuana is difficult to get. It used to be, a few years back, they were saying it was easy to get. And so it's being taken out of the hands of the kids who previously were often selling it, and now that's not happening. You know, when you're classmate in high school is selling marijuana, it's pretty darn easy to get, but when he can't sell it anymore, it makes it a lot more difficult for him.
And
so, you know, these edible products and some of these other things are an outgrowth of the new legal market, obviously. What did you want to say, Casper?
Say that there's like the lady on the city council from the Parks Department who wasn't really enthusiastic about the festival, and then the members of the community who seem really adamant that cannabis and the marijuana culture needs to go back into the closet, are missing an opportunity right here in your own backyards to embrace the future and to lead the nation into a new direction. That's why I think it's so weird, is that these people are actually keeping Portland weird what they're thinking, because here you have tourism available to you. You've got the opportunity to have a lot of conventions coming in, bringing in medical opportunities for research and for patients to grow and to get better medicines. Here you got an opportunity for the industrial hemp crop to explore and expand and to actually flourish with new jobs in a new job industry. But you weird people think that it's better to put it back into the closet and pretend that it's not there, and we're going just a little too far, instead of embracing it and showing the nation how to do it properly with regulations and making it so that adults get recreational use, the farmer gets the industrial use, the medicine goes to the patients in a proper way, and we've demonstrated to the country how we can create a tourist industry with thousands of jobs and a nice strong base. If those people who don't want to come on board with that, you're doing the model of your country right on top when you say, let's keep Portland weird, because that's weird to stay in the dark ages. It's weird to go backwards. It's weird to say no to jobs. It's weird to turn down money for your community when you need streets fixed and your schools get to thrive and grow. Thank you, Paul.
You know, here we've got our hemp flame of freedom. This is the main reason marijuana was made illegal, and it's because you can drive your car on it. You can take this hemp seed oil, pour it right into any diesel engine with no conversion, and turn the key and drive it. We've got next week's hemp wick here. That's a hemp wick in there. This is an entire hemp illuminant, and that's the reason it's illegal. It's not about drugs. The drugs have always just been a smokescreen. It's really about money, power, and the continued centralization of economic and political control. And so what prohibition has led to are unwarranted police powers, and we have a little video we're going to roll right now that kind of illustrates what happens when you give the police too much power. We'll be back in just a moment.
The problem of dangerous drugs, sevenfold. It will be $600 million this year. More money will be needed in the future. I want to say, however, that despite our budget problems, to the extent money can help in meeting the problem of dangerous drugs, it will be available. This is one area where we cannot have budget cuts, because we must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
It's a no-knock raid, don't be afraid. We'll shoot your dogs in front of your kids, 'cause we are the SWAT. We're here for your pot and all the cash that you've got. We are adrenaline junkies taking orders from the top. KGB and the DEA, they'll make you disappear like in Guantanamo Bay. In the middle of the night, you'll have nothing to say. If we get the wrong address, it doesn't matter anyway. We'll still get our kicks, we'll still have our fun. Yeah, we are the SWAT, we are adrenaline junkies till the drugs are all gone. It's a no-knock raid, don't be afraid. Paramilitary police state on parade. It's a no-knock raid, don't be afraid. You do the time for your victimless crime. It's a no-knock raid. It's a no-knock raid. Don't be afraid. This is a war, and this is your fate. We are the face of your new police state. We are the law, and we've got the guns. Statutory power, mandatory minimums. We are the SWAT, we're here for your part and all the cash that you got. We are adrenaline junkies taking orders from the czar. It's a no-knock raid, don't be afraid. Paramilitary police state on parade. It's a no-knock raid, don't be afraid. You do the time for your victimless crime. And it's a no-knock raid. It's a no-knock raid. Don't be afraid. Paramilitary police state on parade. Flashbang on the ground. Don't hear a sound. Could be you, could be the mayor of your town. And it's a no-knock raid. It's a no-knock raid. Don't be afraid.
Okay, that's a very serious video. That last one, they kicked in the door and came into a home of a man who just got off a 12-hour shift. He'd been asleep about 2 hours. They shot him about 30 times while he was sitting on his couch.
And I think I've read recently the statistics on no-knock raids. There's an average of 7 an hour occurring across the United States.
So that's the major problem of marijuana prohibition. I think now that we're starting to end marijuana prohibition, that we need to regulate these other drugs as well. And you know, we aren't going to be having any meth fest or anything the way we have our hemp fest, but you know, it's just not the same thing. But it's only when you regulate these things and take them out of the black market and make them cheap and plentiful for those people who choose that, and give people the real information about them, that they're really educated. And we've seen that with tobacco, we've seen that with alcohol. Alcohol use has gone down every year since 1933, with a brief spike during World War II. But regulation works, prohibition doesn't work. And so we've been fed these lies that have led to this militarization of our country, and fortunately, we're starting to make some moves in the right direction here in Oregon. You know, some people might think it goes too far, and those voices need to be heard as well. But and we have to address those concerns. But I think we have to end the prohibition and regulate these drugs.
And Oregon is a leader in a lot of ways. The way that they've constructed their state, the way they put together their laws in this state. I mean, even with the ability to have euthanasia available to
the first
patients.
State on that. I guess California just passed a similar law. Washington already had it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say euthanasia, what you really mean is patients can choose, with terminal diseases, can choose to get a drug to end their life rather than suffer during the last part of their life and run up their medical bills. It's not really euthanasia. Euthanasia means you're kind of killed against your will, I think.
Oh, so like you just can't put down your mom and dad if
No, you got to have
annoying
several
right?
doctors
You just can't
ready
have
for
them
that.
put to sleep, right?
No, we don't do that. We have another caller, though. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello?
Hi.
How you doing?
Pretty darn well. How are you?
I'm fine. Happy Friday, Casper.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
I would just like to disagree with the caller who said that they didn't agree with the laws, the new laws.
Yeah. They were saying the edibles and concentrates they feel are going too far. But, even with edibles and concentrates, no one has ever died from marijuana the way they die with alcohol every day.
Yeah, and kids have had it for years.
Yeah.
In high school and even grade school.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to a little dignity for the adults and
the truth. Let's talk
educating
about the truth.
Kids about...
And the science.
And what?
Let's talk about the truth and the science, that no one has ever died from this. We've looked at Washington, Colorado now for a couple of years, and kids' access to marijuana is down. They had easy access before, now they don't. That's a clear indication that the kids aren't selling in the high schools any more than they're selling gin or beer in the high schools anymore.
I agree.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, thank you.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate your call and your opinion.
I love it. All those clowns all my life saying smoking marijuana is bad for you. And now it's like every day you wake up and there's a new medical research showing that using medical marijuana will help you with Alzheimer's or help you with Crohn's
Make you
disease.
live longer. I thought when I first heard someone, Jack Harris, say the marijuana will make you live 2 years longer, I thought that was kind of crazy. But now we know it's true, that it lowers stress, it lowers inflammation, and actually makes you live longer.
Willie Nelson's 148.
There you have it.
Look at him. And he's still singing.
We have another video we're going to run right now as soon as that's queued up. And this is from the Seattle Hemp Fest. This is a video from a guy who definitely talks too much. Here he
is the most important plant in the world. And when we are able to restore hemp without regard to its THC content, but according to the varieties that make the best seed for fuel and fiber and food, the best stems and stalks for paper, building materials, canvas, rope, lace, and linen, and the best buds for medicine, when we grow that all as one crop, we will replace petroleum and change the whole economic and environmental paradigm. And it's going to happen, folks. It is going to happen. We're going to replace petroleum with hemp seed oil. According to a study of wild hemp here in the United States back in 1975, done at University of Illinois at Urbana, published in the American Midlands Naturalist from Notre Dame, 1 acre of hemp will make over 8,000 pounds of hemp seed. Now that's about 15 times more than the low THC varieties that they allow to be cultivated in Canada and that they're starting to allow here in the United States. So when we remove those bullshit restrictions and allow farmers to grow hemp for fuel without regard to its THC content, instead of poisoning the earth with petrochemicals, we'll be reviving the earth. Instead of taking energy out of the natural cycle, we'll be putting energy back in, and we'll be creating food as a byproduct and fiber as a byproduct. So we won't have to deforestate this planet anymore. You know, cotton alone takes about 50% of all the world's pesticides. Hemp doesn't take any. So I urge you to go to hemp.org. You can find out a little bit more about that. Another one of the things I do is I've been blessed to be able to help medical marijuana patients. And a really bad law passed this year for medical marijuana patients. And it was signed into law. It's Senate Bill 5052. We need to lobby the legislature and stop that from being fully implemented. It's already started to be implemented, so I have doctors that help patients get their medical marijuana permits at THCF medical clinics. And we are not going to completely comply with those laws. We're challenging the law, and we're continuing to help patients all over the state. Over the past 10 years, we've been able to get over 100,000 Washington residents become legal medical marijuana patients so they can possess, use, and grow marijuana. And we're not going to go away. You know, patients need to be able to grow it, but every person should be able to grow this plant. So there's an initiative out there right now, Initiative 739. We have it at our tables at the THCF Medical Clinic down by the main stage. We have another booth up by Sealy Stage. We need to get signatures to put that on the ballot for a vote. So we urge you to go out there and sign these petitions, because that's the way we change this, is we have to stand up and remain politically active. You know, this thing can continue to provide jobs for people, but change the whole energy paradigm and the economic paradigm. If we can replace petroleum, instead of having our money go to Exxon and Mobil and the Saudi sheiks and Nigerian despots, it'll go to our farmers, and our farmers will spend it in our own communities. You know, the whole reason marijuana was criminalized was to stop its use as a fuel. It was really the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches who invented the marijuana myth. And it's only if we continue to stand up and tell the truth to power that we can restore hemp and save our environment and put food on our table. So I urge you to go up there, sign the petition. We all should be able to grow this. Until marijuana is cheap and plentiful and we can use hemp for energy again, we will not stop. In closing, I just want to say, you know, this stage has been dedicated to Peter McWilliams for a long time. He was a great activist. And there's another fellow, Kevin Black, who has been a Hemp Fest security volunteer for a long time. There are a lot of people that have passed carrying this torch to end marijuana prohibition. I urge you to go out there and do your duty and carry it further. Thank you again. Thank the Seattle Hemp Fest, and restore hemp. Bye-bye.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
That's from the Seattle Hemp Fest just about 4 weeks ago.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well
I
said.
appreciate that.
Well said.
Had some practice at it. We are just about out of time, but we have a phone call standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Casper.
Hey,
it's
Nikki.
me,
How are you?
Hi, I'm calling from TOS, the other spot.
All right. For those of you out there who don't know, the other spot is a social club at the corner of 72nd and Harold Street, Southeast 72nd. Right, Nikki?
That is correct, Paul. And I wanted to say great clip. And I wanted to tell everyone to come out for Hempstock. Please support us. Support what Paul's done for people for many, many, many years. He's a great man, and he does wonderful things for this community and has done wonderful things for this community. And I consider him a personal mentor and friend. And I want to say thank you, Paul Stanford, for everything you've done for me and my family. As a grower for me, you have taken very good care of me and my family, and I want to say thank you so much. And you've never charged me a dime, and I want to say thank you for that, too.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And I want to invite everybody. We're having dinner and DJ tonight at the other spot, and you're all certainly welcome to come after you're all done there. But I love each and every one of you guys, and I say thank you, and thank God for Hempstock.
Thank you, Nikki. Thanks for calling. I appreciate the accolades.
And you guys have a wonderful night. Love you all.
I love you.
Yeah, I've been blessed to be able to grow and give away about 6,000 pounds of marijuana over the past 12 years.
And I've smoked about 1,000 pounds of that myself.
It's been a lot. I don't think it's been quite 1,000 pounds, but 10 or so maybe.
At least.
Yeah, 10 or so. We are just about out of time, though. You want to give shout out? I know you've just made some breakthroughs. You've got your Roku network thing.
Time flies. It's been an hour already. I can't believe it. And you're right. We're on the Roku TV network now, so we got that up and going. And Mark Emery's joining our team. Going to be broadcasting every week on the brand new show starting the 23rd of this month. Skunk Magazine's also going to start doing a weekly show on the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. And so make it a point to let your friends be aware of all of those great updates. And West Coast Leaf is also going to be sharing office space with us on the internet. You come to timeforhemp.com. There you will also find the West Coast Leaf, so you can keep up to date with all of their blogging and reporting, and you can share all of that with your friends. So please go to timeforhemp.com. Check us out for at least an hour a day. Every other hour is music. Every other hour is talk. At the end of 30 days, if you like us, stay with us, and if you don't, still share us with your friends, right? And remember, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's Time for Hemp. And thank you, Paul, for this shameless plug.
You are welcome yet again, and I'll put in one for our clinics. We have doctors all over the USA that'd be happy to help you. If you have a qualifying condition for medical marijuana, then you can call us toll-free at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. If you're here in the Portland area, it is 503-281-5100. John Cornette is standing by, ready to strum another great song in closing for you guys. I want to thank you again for watching. We'll see you next week, and help us restore hemp. Good night.
A rose by any name is still a rose. Some people call it marijuana. I call it Medicanja.
All right.
Ganja. I like Medicanja. Ganja, I like to grow Medicanja. Stick it in the ground, water it down, Medicanja. Woo-hoo. Ganja.